Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Toon Under podcast. I am Jack in Brisbane, fresh from my little holiday in New Zealand. Had a very nice time. And I've got Keegan, who's also had a little trip away to the Gold Coast. How you doing, Keegan?
Good, mate. Yeah, I'm fresh from my holiday from Brisbane. You're back to Geelong. You're fresh from your holiday to New Zealand back to Brisbane. So good to be here.
Yeah, I'm not actually fresh. That's a total lie. Going on holiday with two kids, two little kids is not remotely relaxing. But anyway, there we go.
It's all right when
We're
it's
here
all right
to
when my
talk about
kids can
Newcastle.
entertain your kids, though.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about Newcastle's 2-2 draw with Wolves, which happened. It was 2:30 in the morning, Sunday morning, a graveyard shift for us. It was a bit of a back and forth game, not too dissimilar to the West Ham game. We'll talk about the kind of comparison with that game soon. But what's your overall reaction, Keegan, to that result? Backing up the Dortmund disappointment with another away draw after a European exertion.
Yeah, it's a really weird kind of position, isn't it, really? Because I think both times against West Ham as well, we're taking the lead after a Champions League game midweek and failed to hold on. But you could argue that we're maybe a bit lucky in the end, and a lot of our good players had pretty poor games as well. So it's kind of mixed feelings, really. But we didn't lose, I guess, is the positive. But no more injuries as well, which is handy because we've had a wretched run.
We're going to look at the team in a minute. I think it's probably a point. You can argue both ways. Like it's 2 points lost because we were winning, but it's also a point gain because for some reason we keep having these away games after Europe as well. Like the next one's going to be away as well. To Dortmund, we're going to have Bournemouth away. So
Bournemouth, yeah.
It's probably just the way the fixtures have worked. But when we beat Sheffield United after Milan, and then we've drawn the two games against a couple of decent teams, really. Wolves were actually better than I thought they were going to be. So probably in isolation, sort of 5 points from those away games after Europe is not a bad return. But like you said, it could have been more at West Ham and it could have been more at Wolves as well. You've already mentioned the injuries. The squad is in a bit of a depleted state at the moment. It definitely is. There was at least six players missing yesterday who otherwise would have at least been on the bench, which made the bench have a bit of a weak look to it, really. The team had Pope, Trippier, Lascelles, Schär, and Byrne, as has been the defence for pretty much this whole season, more or less, after Botman got injured. Bruno, Longstaff, and Joelinton in the midfield, and then Miggy, Gordon, and Wilson, who were all desperately trying to wrap in cotton wool now because we're in trouble. But the bench, we had two goalkeepers, Dubravka, Gillespie, and then we had about six fullbacks. There was Dummett, Richie, Target, Kraft. Good to see Kraft back on the bench. There was Hall, Livramento, and Willock was the sole sort of attacking spark that we had on the bench.
Yeah.
We're kind of. I mean, the first team looks quite strong there, Keegan. Like that could be the team for, even if we did have all those other players fit. But it's looking a bit bare bonesy at the moment, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As soon as you've got two keepers on the bench, you're down to bare bones. I think that's the kind of marker that I think everyone needs to go by as well. Never mind the six fullbacks that we've got. The thing that kind of stood out to me was basically all our new players are injured. Now, they not quite up to speed with the way and the intensity that we train at, we play at, and things like that. I know, obviously, Tonali's. We'll get to him later on, but his wasn't an injury per se, but and Barnes and things like that. It's just, is it an acclimatization thing as well? We'll never know, and even if it is, the club will never admit that they've done it wrong and stuff like that. But we've got what we've got. Like, we can't do anything about it now. Hopefully, we've got enough to kind of ride through to the next international break, because it doesn't feel like we'll get anyone back.
Yeah,
then. So we've just got to be really smart with how we play and who we pick and everything like that for another probably, 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the next international break?
Yeah. We've got 4 games to go before the international break, so we're going to, in part 2 of the show, we're going to look at the Man United game coming up and see what we think the team might be for that. But it's funny with the injuries because, like Murphy's, for example, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, that's an impact injury. You can't do anything about that.
Isak's had a couple, though, when he was with Sweden as well. So that could be the case, that kind of the intensity and the way we're expected to play. But also, I mean, the monsoon conditions, is it some kind of rule now that Newcastle are only allowed to play in pissing rain and monsoon?
It was bad. Like, normally, I don't think it's normally this bad at this time of year. Like, the times that I've been over there, it hasn't been nothing. I don't think we had a day like this, and they've had 2 in a week, which it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It does not help at all with the injury situation. And you could see at times, like Dan Burn in the second half looked like he was literally like running in mud at one point. He couldn't, he's not the quickest anyway.
But, take your steel caps off, Dan. Come on.
At least it wasn't like Dortmund where the ball was stopping, dead. That just felt like that was really bad against Dortmund. And
it was really bad at the start because it was skidding through, and like blokes would make a run and it would just skid straight through, like wouldn't hold up. And then by the end of the game, it was doing the opposite because it obviously got heavier and heavier and stuff like that. And then, this, like last night, it wasn't much better.
The commentators kept saying it made for a good game, but they obviously hadn't watched the Dortmund game, because I think it really impacted the football, I think, because you never didn't know if the ball was going to run through, or it got so waterlogged that it, like I said, it was slowing down and stopping. So
and it's more dangerous as well, because if blokes take touches and it skids off, and then guys start flying through because they think they have a chance to win the ball and end up taking people out and stuff like that. I know here, especially in Australia, like we obviously play during summer, so they do put sprinklers on before the game and at half time to try and keep a little bit of speed in it, but it's probably dry after 5 minutes because of the heat and things like that around here.
I think it was a relief actually to get through this without any more injuries. That was probably one of the good things to come from the game. When you've got that many players missing, and as well there was Miley who's injured as well. He's unavailable. He might have started getting. He'd at least be on the bench and start getting some minutes as well. So let's talk about Tonali, because we haven't covered him since his ban was confirmed. Let's just briefly touch on that. That's like, what can you do about that? Like, he's being banned for something which our club has got nothing to do with that. He wasn't even when he was with us. I don't know how much AC Milan knew. Obviously, Tonali himself and maybe his agent knew a bit about this before they signed. So I think it was good. I like the show of support he got against Palace. I think that was really important. But I think behind the scenes, the club are going to be doing a lot of digging and talking to people to try and find out what their options are, because, like, quite apart from anything else, we're going to be without a proper top-class midfielder for the whole season now, and he's going to miss a few games of next season as well. What's your sort of overall thoughts on this now that the ban's confirmed and the dust's going to settle?
We'll start at the start. I'm 100% convinced that AC Milan knew about this before we signed him. What length or how much they knew about it, we'll probably never know. But I'd be absolutely staggered if they didn't know that he was doing, well, he had a gambling. At the very least, he had a really bad gambling problem. So, with regards to us, I think maybe there is some course of action where we can, I don't know if there's not some kind of insurance or what it may be to factor in that we don't actually pay 100% of his wages during this time, because it's not an injury. It's got nothing to do with us. It's just unfortunate that he's with us at the time. But with regards to him, look, I think the word was he had a little bit of trouble. Not trouble is probably too strong, but he hadn't quite settled in as maybe smoothly as some of the other signings had sort of settled in when they'd come over as well. And I think the language barrier was a bit tricky to start with. You can't do anything about, like, you can't get upset or get frustrated. So you know me, Jack. I'm a glass half full guy. So, but maybe this is kind of, if you look at it like it's a 10-month settling in period now, where he can learn the language, he can settle himself in. Obviously, the club's going to put their arms around him and give him all the help he needs to get over the illness that he has and get him back on track, and not just for the club, but for himself and his own life and things like that. And anyone that's involved in sports clubs knows that when you're struggling with stuff like that, there's probably no better place to be, because everyone will get around you and they'll pick you up if you fall and stuff like that. And I've got no doubt our club will be doing something similar. And I just hope, he spends these next 10 months, but maybe he'll go away now for like maybe a month or so, just to get away from all the sort of hustle and bustle, and let the club just get yourself together. And when you're ready to come back, mate, we'll have you back, and we'll have you back. We'll have you back to the club, and we'll have you back physically. So
it's in the club's interest, of course, to keep them as happy as possible. And the stuff like that they're going to do to try and find out what's happened is very separate from the support and the backing that they're going to give to him, because he's a major asset still, and he's only going to be still early 20s by the time his ban finishes.
That's it.
And like I said, hopefully he will have settled in a bit. It's really positive if he's allowed to train with us.
I don't think that's been. Has that been cleared up yet?
Hasn't been cleared up. Like with
I
Tony,
seen anything.
No, with Ivan Toney, they said straight away he wouldn't be able to until a certain point. But I think with Tonali, he might be able to, just can't play. So he's going to come back next season with a full preseason. But I guess we're just
10-month preseason.
I guess we just have to kind of forget about him from now. Like, you have
to.
We can't list him as a player who's missing. Like, keep listing him as a player who's missing, because he just is. Like he's not part of the squad. Going to be part of the squad this season. So and I hope that the transfer will work out in the long run. I think it will. Yeah. And there is a wider point here about football and gambling. Like you've got it's actually an 18-month ban he got, which was 8 months of it as community service or something, which was reduced. So, like, is that proportionate to what he's actually done compared to what some other players get who've actually done, or been accused of doing worse things? You're getting into the kind of dodgy ground, I think. But football, all football clubs have got these they've got sponsorship deals with betting companies. Like the Bet365 is one of the most profitable, I think, who Stoke City owner had that company. It's just such a massive business, and the two things are just inextricably linked. So, and I think it's hypocritical to kind of, make money from it in that way, but then ban someone for so long who's got a problem, because it is a problem, gambling, So that's kind of a wider point.
Yeah, and I think Paul Merson's been pretty vocal about this over the last sort of week or two as well. He's had his own trouble in the past, but I'd like to think we're not just saying this because it directly influences the team that we support. I think it's a wider issue, not just at an elite level, at community level as well, like local sports and all that. And like you said, there's so much stuff out there, and every club's got gambling partners. I think we've probably got 3 or 4 actually gambling sponsors, and you'd be getting discounts when you sign up and bonus bets, and it's everywhere. And then
in your face,
and then to ask these people to not be sucked in by it, it's hard. Like I know, especially in the AFL, like a lot of clubs, or nearly every club, was getting tens of millions of dollars a year from poker machines and things like that. Now, I think there might be only 3 or 4 clubs now that actually have poker machines as a revenue source. And I think a couple of them are already basically got their exit strategy mapped out. It's just you can't just shut it off. There's a lot of toing and froing that you need to get signed off before you do it. But so the AFL have identified that it's a scourge on community, and we don't really want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But I think we've got a long way to go. And the clubs see the dollars. They don't see the actual the impact of it and stuff like that. And maybe the gambling ban on the front of shirts is the first step in the right direction to kind of get rid of it all.
when you've got players like, because my opinion was the same about Tony as well. I thought, it was a harsh ban, and I think I don't know what it's going to actually do for him. But I think it's the hypocrisy about the whole thing, which I think does need to be called out. So maybe the more players, high-profile players who do get banned, the more the conversation is going to continue.
Yeah.
But it does leave us, like, as a club, a bit, like that's just a small part of it, really. But it leaves us up the creek a bit because he's such a good player, and he was showing signs of settling in.
We were one short, maybe two short at the back end of last season. Now we're one short again. Do you think we'll get someone in January just to try and plug again? I think we have to. I think
we will. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be Ruben Neves or for the absolute rage that'll cause. But we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, but we are reasonably stocked in midfield as well. If players are not going to get injured, and it's good to see Jollett and Willock coming back in as well.
It might depend what happens in the Champions League as well, Jack. Like whether we progress in the competition. Like if we don't have that, if we fall in the Europa League, well, then we're still going to have that midweek game carry on through the next year. So we probably could do with another body or two.
We always knew it was going to be a big season, like a tough season, and that's the way it's proved. And it just doesn't help to have your new midfielder banned for this kind of thing. But I think what you said about Milan, like they were clearly keen to sell him. I think like it was a surprise to everybody that they sold him for what they did. So putting two and two together, I think you're right. I think they probably did know about it. It's whether we can prove that and what We don't want the player himself, though, to get caught up in all this. This can happen above him, and the club will just support him.
It's got nothing to do with him.
That's why I was so pleased about the way the fans backed him in the Palace game.
Yeah,
and gave him the support.
Yeah, it wasn't a cheering an illegal act. It's actually getting around someone who's one of your own and letting you know that you're behind them and stuff like that. Just quickly on Milan before we move on, do you reckon? When you go bowling, like 10-pin bowling, and you get a strike and you want to get really excited, but when you turn around back to your friends, you sort of have like a smirky, shit-eating grin on your face because you don't want to seem too excited that you knocked them all over. I reckon that's what Milan would have been when Newcastle come calling and said, we want to buy Sandro Tonali, and they would have went, no, like not. I don't want to get too excited by this, but you can have me. Like the next conversation, they're gonna take him, and then they have to try and be really serious and diplomatic about it. Oh no, we don't want to lose him. Blah blah blah.
Pretend to play hardball.
But this is going to be great.
the whole thing with that was that we were Dan Ashworth was in Milan looking at Barella from Inter Milan, and then he ended up coming back with Tonali. So you never know what's gone on or what's happened, but he's obviously been told by someone. And the question is who was driving it, and how much. Because it did seem strange that they were willing to sell him for that price, but it makes a bit more sense if they knew this was going to come out, I suppose.
It's it's a bit like the Sixth Sense. You don't realize it till it's over. What's actually just happened?
We'll never know, but we wish him the best, of course, and we look forward to seeing him back. He's had real flashes this season of what he can do, and I'm sure he's gonna. This could make him, be stronger as a person and as a player. And look forward
He'll be back better. He'll be back better than he ever was since he started.
So, on to some of the players that are allowed to play. The game was a bit of a struggle actually. Throughout for us, it was quite difficult for us to get into it. But we did end up going 1-up, and then we ended up going 2-1 up as well. Talk about our goals first, because Callum Wilson is back in the goals. He's now got 7 goals for the season in total. He's the third highest Premier League scorer for Newcastle of all time now with 45. He's just one behind Peter Beardsley. And he's scoring at a rate of 1 goal per pretty much every hour of minutes played this season. He's absolutely banging them in. I saw a stat as well, actually, that over his last 40 league games that he's played, he's scored 25 goals.
So you sort of tack onto the back end of last year as well. He was
I thought that didn't sound right. But then if you think about it, he scored 7. He's got 7 this season, and he got 18 last season. So that's 25. And he's probably played around 40 games in that time because he doesn't play all the games. So he's absolutely banging them in. his first goal was a bit against the run of play, but it was a lovely striker's finish. And then we'll get on to the penalty. He was pretty lucky, actually. He's going to miss one of these at some point because there's been a couple now where the keeper's got his hand to it, but it's still gone into the net. And he's kind of calm and collected when he runs up, but I do worry he's going to miss one at some point. But what did you make of his 2 goals and just his sort of form in general over the last sort of few months?
Yeah, the first goal was interesting because it felt like a lot of the Wolves players, keeper, and fans were sort of clamoring for a foul on Longstaff, but Longstaff's just standing there. He doesn't actually even contest the ball because he's jumped over by the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper just spills it. Like it's poor goalkeeping, and then what we would have gave for him to finish one of them ones on Wednesday night against Dortmund, but it was a good. Like he had a couple of bites at the cherry, but we got it in the end. But the second goal was it was just weird. The whole thing was just really bizarre. Like the foul. It's like Shah went out of his way.
Yeah.
To get snuck up on him to get kicked. Like it was weird. And then the VAR seemed to take an eternity. And then the whole penalty, like, did it go in just to the camera angle after when the keeper touches it? You don't know where it's actually gone.
Yeah, it looked like the camera angle is.
Yeah, it was just a weird kind of 5 minutes, wasn't it?
It was like I'm with you on the first goal. It wasn't a foul, and I'm pleased that the goalkeeper, because the goalkeepers are very overprotected in that way sometimes. But he basically fucked up, like he dropped it, he filled it, and Longstaff. It wasn't a foul because what can he do? He's just standing there, and the keeper jumped on him. So the penalty, the first thing, the corner that for the penalty it was terrible. It was supposed to be some kind of routine. Trippier passed it to Shea, who then, I think he was trying to lay it off to somebody. It was obviously off the training ground, but it wasn't executed very well. And then in real time, it looked like a foul. It looked like a clear penalty. So I could see why the referee gave it from that perspective. And then you've got the question of, well, it's gone to VAR. And it was Jared, our Aussie friend,
our VAR. Gillett, yes.
He's got to make a decision there of whether this is whether it's a foul, whether he thinks it's a foul or not, or whether it's a clear and obvious error, and whether he's going to send. I thought he was going to send the ref to the monitor to say, "Do you want to just have a look at this?" But what his thought process was obviously, well, the referee thinks he's seen a foul. There was contact. It wasn't a lot of contact, and it was instigated by Shah, who was maybe anticipating a bit more contact, but that Hwang tried to kind of pull out of it, but he still made contact. His foot was still forward. He still caught Shah, not enough for him to go down. But when it's that quick as well, maybe he was going down anticipating the contact and thinking there was going to be more contact. But I don't really know how the VAR could have turned it over and said that's a very clear and obvious error, because in real time, it wasn't. It looked like it was a foul based on what happened in the actual game, in the action.
Yeah, well, so if it's not a foul, what is it then? Like, you've just sort of kicked a bloke. Like he definitely did.
Yeah.
He'd see him at the last minute and tried to pull out. Like, he did pull out of it. He didn't pull out of it, but he definitely didn't hit him as hard as he did when he had the wind up coming back down to kick the ball. But yeah, that's what I mean. It was just a whole weird kind of thing. Like, I reckon, was it Wilson last year at the Gallagher end? He got a penalty for something similar where he'd snuck in front of someone and he'd sort of kicked it and kicked him instead because he didn't see him coming.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was kind of, I can't remember what game it was. It was definitely at home in the Gallagher end, but so that's my it's a really strange one because it's not like a regular thing that happens all the time, and it's not one of them ones where you go, if it was outside the box, it was a foul. Like, it was just well, if it's a foul and it's gone to VAR to get analysed, then what like, what other options is it? Is it like a not a foul? Well, can you just go around kicking people now? Like, what are you meant to do? That's why I think, like, times like this, and I've been banging this drum for 2 years now. Let's hear these conversations between the ref and the VAR. Like, let's just make it transparent so there's nothing to hide, and everyone, you might not agree with the decision, but at least you get the idea of how they've actually come to the decision that they've made. Like, and yeah, even come over, have a look. Is this what you think? Yeah, this is what I've seen. Yeah, I reckon it's the same thing. Like,
and I genuinely think with this one that if it was the other way around, I think that I would be more annoyed at the defending player, for doing such a loose touch in the box, and then basically just kicking an opponent. Like, I think I'd be more annoyed at that, and I'd be frustrated. Like, I don't think you can say that wasn't a penalty based on the action, like, and I know that Shearer has come out and said he doesn't think it was a pen, and a few others, like both of the pundits in the studio that we had, said that it wasn't a pen. But I don't know, like, I don't think when the referees made that decision, and you don't want VAR re-refereeing games either. You don't want them to be looking at decisions and saying, because it wasn't a massive cock-up, like, you can understand why the ref gave it in real time.
Yeah.
And there was contact.
It's controversial. It's just controversial that, like, how do you play that out? Like, yeah, mate, you actually made him kick you. Like, you ran into his way. He didn't even know you were there. He's not making a challenge on the ball or anything like that. Like, yeah, like I said, it was just weird. And like, if it had went the other way, and he said no penalty, mate, you caused that yourself, then you go, yeah, you probably did.
Yeah.
Like, you just, it's one of them ones where it doesn't, if it goes against you, it's the wrong decision.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, I really do think I'd be more annoyed at the player for the mistake of, like, getting into that position in the first place, because you shouldn't be in a position where you're swinging your leg at an opponent in your own box.
Yeah.
So,
especially after a corner, when there's still bodies around, and
just before half time
like
as well. It wasn't great. He did redeem himself a bit later, unfortunately for us. But in between our goals, Wolves scored. We conceded the first goal from a set piece that we've conceded this season. This was just such a bad goal to concede. Like, Trippier had a really bad game. He probably had his worst game for us over the full 90 minutes. But he's I'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk about Livramento and Hall, because there's kind of a lot of clamour for them to start. But he's such an important senior player, and he's so good, and he's been so good this season. He was the joint top assist creator in the league before this game, that you can't really leave him out. Like, he's integral to the way we defend and the way we attack. So you can't leave Trippier out. So, but he did have a bad game. He did have a really bad game. He was on Lamina, who's a lot taller than him. Most people are taller than him, and he let him go to score the goal. We're going to talk about Pope as well in a minute, but could he have done maybe better with the corner? It was just like a looped deep corner, which was just headed straight in. It was a basic goal to concede.
Yeah, it was. It was funny, like, when you think about all our very intricate, worked on the training pitch for 6 hours routines that don't work. Sometimes just a nice loopy one in the box is the way to go. Like, you can have all the best plans in the world. Just, what do they say? Get it in the mixer and see what happens. Like, but it was poor, and he tried to sort of get in front of him, but Lamina just overpowered him, didn't he, and just put it through. And I think Pope, they're always hard. I think you got that much going on, and it only takes one kind of guy to get in your way a little bit, and you can't make the run to try and get rid of the ball is what you want to make. And next thing you know, you're watching it go over your head, and the bloke's sort of unmarked. Well, not unmarked, but he basically is unchallenged at the back post, and a fairly easy header, which, like you said, had been our first goal. It wasn't like us.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, a lot of blokes were off their tucker.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of the one Harry Kane scored against us for Spurs in the game away at Spurs last season, where it was just a corner sort of put in, should have been dealt with, and Trippier was also at fault that time. So maybe defending corners maybe isn't his strong suit, but he's only a small guy,
Maybe that's if opposition coaches do their work, maybe his opponent's the bloke we want to give it to. Like, why wouldn't
if you can execute it properly, then it's obviously an area of weakness for us, and it's just annoying to concede like a bad goal like that. The second one was probably even worse. Like, and this was at a time when Wolves probably deserved it, to be honest. Like, we hadn't had a single shot in the second half by this point, but I don't know why Pope didn't catch it. It was just a bad free kick into the box, right on Pope's head. And for some reason, and I said it, I remember at the time watching it thinking, why have you just punched it? Why didn't you just catch it? Like, and it's easy to sit here and criticize, like, especially with the conditions like that. But, it was raining, maybe the ball was slippery, but he should be catching that really, like, and he punched it out pretty weak, really. And then from there, Bruno kind of didn't cover himself in glory with the attempted tackle. Long put it in.
There was a couple of
goal concede.
Yeah, it was. It was a shocking goal. I reckon he done a couple of them Wednesday night too, and I definitely think the conditions. It was in his mate. Like, we'll never know how wet the ball was or how wet his gloves were or whatever it was, but definitely in his head, he'll be hesitant to catch the ball in them. Like, it wasn't just raining; it was pissing down. Like, absolutely pissing down. And then I think Bruno 3 weeks ago probably takes a bit of him, a bit of the ball, gets a yellow card.
Yeah,
that's fine. Being on the tightrope, the proverbial yellow card tightrope, I think he was just kind of stuck his leg in a little bit, but didn't really commit to it. They get through, and then it was actually not a bad finish. Everyone
it was a good finish.
Go across a goal, and he comes skinny side, and I think he kind of caught everyone off guard with that. But he sort of made amends after his penalty howler. Well, probably not a howler. His penalty giveaway, so he squared him back up. Dan
Burn barreled in as well and could have been sent off if he'd caught him.
Yeah. It's weird like that. Like, in the box, it's like you can do whatever the fuck you want. When the bloke's having a shot, all rules are out the window. Like, you can dive in, you can do whatever you like.
Yeah, the Wolves were good value for that. They actually played pretty well. They were better than I thought they were going to be. I know they're actually, their last home games were a draw with Villa and they beat Man City. So they're obviously no mugs. And Gary O'Neill twice last season caused us problems. He drew with Bournemouth twice. But do you think Pope has been such a good goalkeeper for us? He's a great shot stopper. He made a good save in the first half. And he's usually quite commanding, and he does do the sweeper keeper thing. He almost cost us again by doing that, though. He rushed out. He's been doing this since the whole Salah incident, where he kind of rushes out. He has a bit of a mad rush. He did it against West Ham as well and conceded a goal. It is something that's creeping into his game a bit. That's a bit concerning, and he has been at fault for some goals recently. Do you think we're getting anywhere near the point where Dubravka might be brought in for a league game? Because he's probably going to play in the cup, but he's a good goalkeeper himself, and he did really well in the last game of the season against Chelsea. So he almost single-handedly kept us up, along with Maxi, for a few seasons. I know that people have gone off him because he went to Man U on loan, and people don't like him anymore because of that. But he's still a good keeper. Is there any chance you think that it's not Eddie's style to drop players who he likes? But
no, especially not.
Do you think there's any chance that Pope might be under threat if he keeps making these mistakes?
No, I don't. I definitely don't. I actually, part of me wouldn't be surprised if Dubravka didn't even play on against Man United. I think there'd be an off chance that he might be off in January for a loan or something like that, knowing he's second in charge. So that I wouldn't be surprised if Karius or someone played against Man United. But with regards to Pope, I think Fabian Schär and him need to go for a coffee together, and Schär just needs to sort of get in his head, mate. Look, if you want to go up for an adventure, you just got to be confident and go all the way with it. Don't just sort of get up there and go, "Oh, what am I going to do now?" Like, you see him, like, and it makes me laugh because he does it, and look,
he's got that Liverpool incident in his head though, because that he missed the cup final because of that. So that ever since then,
that's what I mean. So as soon as he comes out, he just sort of gets out and goes, "Oh, I've made a really bad." He just kind of freezes, whereas he just needs to the Fabian Schär confidence just to, I'm up and I'm going. Like, I'm just going to keep going and see what happens here. And part of me just thinks, even like when that happens, Lascelles just sort of looks like, oh shit, where is he? And he's up in the edge of the box down the other end somewhere. No, maybe not Pope to go that far, but he just needs that confidence that, like, he's had one bad incident. It doesn't make him a bad keeper or anything like that. Like, he's saved us a lot more points than he's cost us. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then like you've got the game against Milan where he was impenetrable in that game. So he is a brilliant shot stopper. And yeah, I don't think he's near to getting dropped either. But it is a worry though that he is costing us points. You know, in some of these games, his and I'm sure he would say this himself. Like he needs to work on how to cut this out of his game before it's going to be costing us more, because both this and the West Ham game, he's been at fault for at least two of the goals in those four goals, and arguably all of them he could have done a bit better. So
yeah, I reckon part of it's probably decision making too, Jack. Like I reckon the moment if you're half a second too late leaving, you're half a second too late getting there. Like you've actually maybe, I don't know if he's a keeper and he just kind of zones out, watches the ball for that split second, and then he's like, oh, I've got to go. And then it just looks like it's the head rush. It's messy. He's no confidence anymore. Like maybe he just needs to be switched on and like preempt it a little bit more, get there with a bit more time, deal with the problem, get back. We're all good, rather than maybe he's just that half a second off with his decision, and then by the time you get there, you're like, oh, and then you're panicking, gets sent off, whatever happens. So, yeah, maybe that might be it.
And we do know that Eddie will back him, and that's his management style, and that's probably what he knows is going to get the best out of him, and is going to keep him, you know, playing or getting back to playing to his best, and that's what we all want. So let's hope that that happens for Pope. We saw the game out at 2-2. We actually grew into it a little bit towards the end, and we had a couple of chances. Schär had a good header that could have gone in, but Neto went off for them, which was a big problem because he's been such good form this season. I think he's got 7 assists now this season. He was good again. He was lively. He went off injured. He did his hamstring when he looked like he could be in with a shot at goal as well, actually. So that was bad for them. But like I said, I think Wolves played pretty well. They gave a good account of themselves, and we got out of it with a draw. Could have been more, could have been less. Like there's been a bit of discussion because Trippier was bad in this game and he was exhausted, clearly. Byrne didn't have his best game and also looked tired. A lot of the players did look tired because they've been playing a lot of football. So people have been starting to ask, when is Livramento and Lewis Hall, who we spent 35 million on, at least on Livramento, and Hall is a loan with an obligation to buy, who came here because he wanted more first team football and because he's a Newcastle fan. But it hasn't really happened for either of them so far. They had the start in the cup, and they've both made a few short appearances off the bench. Livramento was really good against Man City in the cup. Hall wasn't as good. He struggled a bit in the midfield role. He's probably behind target though as well in the left back pecking order at the moment.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Whether he's questioning whether his decision to move here or whether it's just still October, it's early, I don't think myself that this was the right game to start messing around with your defense when we were under the cosh. Even if Trippier and Byrne were tired, which they were, I don't think throwing a couple of 20-year-old and youngers into this game would have actually done. I think we could easily have lost if we'd have done that, and then Eddie would have been a villain for making the stupid substitutions. He trusts his experienced players, even if they weren't having a very good game. But it is a challenge for him, isn't it, when he's going to integrate these two players in particular? Because you've got a lot of people sort of saying, "Oh, that money could have been better spent on first team ready players." At the time, I just thought this is brilliant future planning, and it still is. We're only 10 games into the season, and I'm sure they're both going to get game time. But when do you think we're going to see more of them? And do you think that there's a role that they could have played in this kind of game that we had yesterday?
No, like I honestly don't think we'll see much of them unless we have more injuries to Trippier and Dan Burn. And like we didn't buy them for this year. Like we brought them because they were players that were going to fill a position of need in the near future. Like Trippier might have 1 or 2 years left at his level. Dan Burn maybe the same. So when you get these young English players available for the price they are, with the potential of what they could be, I think it's like you said, it's in the club's best interest to act now and sort of have that sort of in the bank ready to go. And with regards to even the game last night, I don't think Eddie was wrong in what he did. I thought it was the right move, even though they were tired. Trippier, like you said, probably had his worst game for us. Still a leader. His set pieces are really valuable, especially, like you said, we didn't really look like creating much that second half, apart from them a couple of little chances at the end. But I mean, it takes one free kick, one good free kick to put in, and people will argue, yeah, well, Target done that on Wednesday night, but you lose Dan Burn, and then all of a sudden you're a lot smaller defending set pieces that we'd already conceded from as well. With Neto going off, it sort of nullified the threat down his wing. I mean, yeah, I'm in Eddie's side. I think it was the right move to keep them two on. Maybe Hall on a wing, but like you said, Gordon's probably been our best player for the year. So why would you take him off? He's probably our biggest attacking threat. Maybe the other option is you pull Wilson off and put him in cotton wool. Gordon plays as a striker like he did for England in the Euros over the summer. Joel Litton plays on the left, and Hall plays as a midfielder, which he's played a lot. But like a lot of changes for nothing when you're not actually losing a game.
Yeah, when you're still getting a result. That's the thing. Like you still got a result against a mid-table team away after a really hard European game in monsoon conditions again. So I think it would have been good to win this, but it's perfectly fine that we didn't. You know, like
we didn't lose.
We didn't lose, and I was annoyed. I was more annoyed immediately after this than I was after West Ham, even though the goal came earlier in this game, because I felt like I was just annoyed with Pope for not catching it. That's all I can think about. But even if they might have had other chances anyway, so it's hard. And they didn't deserve to lose, Wolves, I think, and we didn't deserve to win. It was a fair result. And then I listened to Eddie's comments, and then I was annoyed when I finished, and I went back to sleep for 3 hours, and I woke up and I felt a bit better about things, and I listened to Eddie's comments. He was just basically saying he's proud of the effort that they've put in this week, even though we lost to Dortmund. The physical exertion of the week has been enormous. We've got 6 players who would have played some part in this game injured or unavailable. Like you have to just say that the players have done well to grind out and to get out of this game against a mid-table opposition.
Yeah. And honestly, you can analyze it as much as you like, but I think when it boils down to it, that's pretty much exactly how it should be.
Yeah. So let's have a look at the league table. So it does keep us in 6th. There's a chance that we could be down as low as 8th if Man United and Brighton win overnight tonight. We've got 2 more points than we did after 10 games last season, and we've scored 9 more goals. So we've been scoring. A lot of that was a Sheffield United game, of course, but we've conceded 2 more goals as well than we had this point last season. But I think to be ahead of where we were in points, especially after the start we had, and especially considering we've played 3 Champions League games, I think we're going pretty well, all things considered, especially in the context of all of these injuries we've now got. So although it would be nice to be higher, I do think 4th is going to be a big challenge this season anyway. I think 5th would be a good result for us this season with the strength of the teams around us. But the league table is still looking all right, isn't it, Keegan, at this stage?
Yeah, like you said, it's fine. Like we've had statistically the hardest start of any Premier League team this season, and to still be in the top 6, maybe not the top 6 at the end of the week, but we'd definitely be within like a game of 4th is fine. Like it's perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are getting wound up about results and everything like that. Like we've played 10 games. Just chill. Like maybe wait until at least we've played everyone once before we kind of get a bit of a sample size of where things are at and everything like that. And I think Spurs are going to be the big winners this year because out of all these teams, they're the only ones that aren't in Europe, so they don't have that sort of midweek thing. And I love Ange, and I'm not ashamed to say I think nearly every Aussie who likes this sport likes Ange, except for maybe Craig Foster. Even though I think they've kind of smoked the peace pipe together, but they seem to be they're going to be the big winners in all this because of the just purely on the, and they're already out of the League Cup too, so purely on the lack of fixtures that they're going to have, they could be a real dark horse for at least top 4.
And that was an advantage for us last season. You know, you can't overstate the strain that it puts physically and mentally on a squad to have to play games back to back like this. So let's have a very little quick break, and then we're going to talk about our League Cup game because the games keep coming thick and fast. They're never going to stop. We'll talk about our trip to Old Trafford after this. All right, so we are playing Manchester United on, it's Thursday morning at 6:15, I think, for me. It'd be 7:15 for you because the clock's changed. Which is a bit of a strange time for a match to kick off, but TV will do what TV does.
Yes.
After the Man City game, so we had a good win against Man City in the last round, and then we got drawn with Man United. There was a lot of people saying it's a bad draw. I actually thought at the time this is actually a good draw because Man United are absolutely terrible. If you've actually seen them play, they've been scraping wins still, but that was before we ended up getting all of these injuries and before the Dortmund result as well, which is going to impact the thinking ahead of this game. But it's obviously down the list of priorities now. It would be nice to get revenge over them for last season. We've had a bit of a chat today in our group chat about what we think the team might be and what he might do for this game. And I'm just going to flash up what I think. I don't think he will actually do this because I don't think that this is what will happen. But I just thought I want to try and get as many fullbacks into this team as possible. And fullbacks are all we've got fit at the moment as well. So I think it'd be good for Dubravka to get a start and goal. I think he's due a start. Target will play at left back. I think that will happen, and I think Livramento will play as well. The centre backs, Botman's not fit, and I think we should rest Lascelles and Shah and Burn. So that would leave Dummett and Kraft as centre backs. Kraft was back on the bench. Throw him in at Old Trafford. That's fine. When it got a bit further forward, I started to struggle with actually fit players who we want to be playing in this game. I don't want to see Bruno in this game because if he gets a yellow card, he misses the Arsenal game. And Hall, I know Hall wasn't great in midfield against Man City, but I think he likes that position, and I think he's due a start. So I think he will play in the midfield. Willock will hopefully be fit to start. Longstaff's only there because there's no one else. Because I would have had Miley again, but he's injured.
Yeah,
Richie's there because again there's nobody else. I don't want to play Wilson to play, so I'd like to see Gordon get the first half up front, and then I'd like to see him rested and Joe Linton to play on the left in the first half, and then Joe Linton to go up front in the second half maybe, and maybe Miggy to come on at half time. Then that gives Gordon and Miggy a bit of a rest. Joe Linton's still playing his way back to full fitness, so he should be all right for 90 minutes in this game. This would be quite a lot of changes. I don't think that will beat Man United if we play this team, but I think resting Bruno, Trippier, and Wilson especially is going to be very important in this game because Arsenal and Dortmund are just more important games, bigger games coming up. What do you think? How do you think that this team might go for this midweek game?
Yeah, I know this is going to go against everything that we spoke about earlier in the podcast, but this would be a great competition. Pick the starting 11 for this game, like like if you bet 365 or something had a special on to pick the 11, because I don't think anyone will ever get it. Anyone who's outside of the club will never get it. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it looks something like this, because especially the back four, definitely Target and definitely Livramento will play. Dummett, he played centre back against Man City from memory, so
Very well, yeah.
He was probably in the votes, to be honest. I think Livramento would have got the 3 votes, but Dummett would have been probably snapping at his heels for the 2. So yeah, Kraft maybe they might leave him off and he can come on as a sub, and Lascelles and Shark and maybe spend half a game, or 60-40 or 60-30, however it wants to fall. But yeah, the midfield's, like you said, it is a concern at the moment. Maybe part of Willock's return to fitness is to give him maybe an hour, sort of the next stage in his recovery, I guess, now that he's playing and things like that. Gordon looks like he'll never stop, so that's fine. I definitely think Bruno and Wilson shouldn't even be on the bus. Stay at home, put your feet up. But yeah, the bench is going to be really interesting as well. Maybe we'll get the other Miley on the bench or something like that.
I think he's injured as well, actually. I saw.
Oh, is he?
From him, yeah.
Oh, not him. And then it's kind of funny, like we did say, even some of the youngsters who played in the preseason tour of America, like they're all out on loan now, so we can't even call them up to like play or come off the bench. So there's going to be maybe a couple of unknown players just in the 60s or 70s that may get on at the end of this game. So I think it's a wipeout. For me, just get through it. Don't get any injuries. I don't really care about the result. If we want to target a cup, let's have a crack at the FA Cup.
Yeah, I think
especially with the squad at the moment.
If we'd have had a bet like a home draw against a lower league team, it'd be a bit better. Like, but having said that, Man United are honestly not very good. Like, they've got City today as well, or tonight, so that could be a challenge for them. And then the way that they've been playing, like, depends on what team they pick. But if we can keep them from scoring in the first half, then things could get a bit nervy there. Dimmy said that he would just play all the kids, like literal kids.
Just
play the children. Yeah. I don't think he'll do that, but I don't know what he's going to do, to be honest. He'll say in his press conference, we'll put out a team that we think can win the game. That's what he says all the time. Yeah. But really, like, it is the lowest priority. Like, and the cups kind of are until you start getting towards the latter stages. And this is not the latter stages. So even if we do win this, we'll have knocked both Manchester teams out. So there'll be a bit of a better run.
It would be fun.
I just think we've got to prioritise the Arsenal game and the Dortmund game as well. So I don't think there'll be too many people who are bothered if we do play a weakened team and lose this game. It's just the way it is at this stage of the season.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone would care. And I honestly don't care if we lose this game by 10. Like, there's no more injuries. Like, that's all I care about at the moment is get our crucial players into the games that matter, and then hopefully, like you said, by the time the FA Cup fires up, we're near enough to full strength. When like the Botman should be back, Barnes should be back, Murphy with a shoulder. If that's a couple of months, hopefully he's back by the start of January as well.
I think we both said as well that Bruno should have just got booked against Wolves, and then he would have missed this. Because if he does have to play, or if he's been brought on in cup games before when we've been losing to try and change things. But if he went and got booked, which he easily could, then he would miss Arsenal, and that'd be a massive problem because he's been really good. He's been back to his best. He was good in this game again against Wolves.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just do what he usually does and kick someone, or like if he's red or something? And get himself a yellow. That would have been best for this, but all right, we'll leave it there. Good to see Keegs, and
good to see you again, mate.
We will be back with a review of the Man United game. Timmy's going to be on that one, and then we'll be building up to the Arsenal game as well, and we'll be back same time next week to talk about the Arsenal game. Have a good one, Keeg.
You too, mate. Thanks, everyone.
All the best.